To come forwards, started Jack Garrity has his flag aloft. They're off. Who's to say? Ross Wilson quickly into stride, looks keen through the early strides, leads up by a couple of lengths, arriving at their first. They're over it safely enough with Fascinating Rhythm. A clear second, Ridelonglivelong in third. Inviction is next, followed through by Secret Pattern, slightly wider of the Sweetener. The grey at the back of the field is Somewhat View as they head towards the third down the far side. Who's to say? Ross Wilson, Fascinating Rhythm in second with Inviction towards the inside. Inviction didn't particularly get very high at that fence as a subsequent consequence was overtaken by Ridelonglivelong and Secret Pattern towards the outside, and still Somewhat View at the rear of the field. Over the fourth at the back of the field, Somewhat View was just a little bit clumsy in the hands of Paddy Barlow. So heading left-handed, they're beginning to make the turn in for the first time. They've through now their first half mile or so and running back towards the final 2.5 miles and fences 5 and 6 up the straight before heading to the ditch, taken as number 7 past the winning line. Who's to say? In front from Fascinating Rhythm, jumping the first in the straight. Ridelonglivelong crossed over in third. Secret Pattern, Somewhat View is beginning to get a little bit closer. At the back of the field, Inviction's been driven along by Joe Wright in between the two fences in the straight, taking before the line. Who's to say? Ross Wilson in front again on landing over the next fence in front of the enclosures. So who's to say? Leading up, leads by about 1.5 lengths over Fascinating Rhythm will Easterby. Ridelonglivelong is in third. Secret Pattern slightly wider. The Sweetener is towards the inside. In mid-division, slightly worse than mid-division. Sweetener on landing over that. Inviction again not particularly fluid. Somewhat View is at the rear of the field. Heading left-handed they go, swinging down the hill, heading towards their final 2 miles or so. The orange jacket of Who's to Say leads the way. Who's to Say from Fascinating Rhythm, a couple of lengths Ridelonglivelong, and then there comes the black and the yellow jacket of Secret Pattern and Will Brown towards the inside. These are then being followed through by the Sweetener up along the inner, Grey Somewhat View, and Inviction is at the rear of the field, heading towards the fence that was their first and last time. Fence number 8 on this occasion, and again Inviction was less than fluid. Joe Wright just continuously having to get a little bit lower in the saddle on the landing side of the fences. All up and over fence number 9 safely enough. They're on towards the 10th. Fascinating Rhythm along the inside of Who's to Say. This the leading pair, 2 or 3 lengths in advance of Ridelonglivelong, Secret Pattern, the Sweetener. Somewhat View is one from last. Inviction still the overall back marker. Heading towards the final fence over in the far side this time, fence number 11. And Fascinating Rhythm has gone through to lead. Fascinating Rhythm a couple of lengths in front now from Who's to Say. Ridelonglivelong, a yellow cap around the inside of Secret Pattern, then a couple of lengths break to find the Sweetener, who maybe just took a false step on rounding that turn. Somewhat View and an Inviction at the rear of the field. So they're turning left-handed and heading towards now their final 7.5 furlongs or so. Fascinating Rhythm will Easterby in front by the best part of 7 or 8 lengths now from Who's to Say. Ridelonglivelong is third. Secret Pattern slightly wider in a black and yellow hoof jacket. Somewhat View's creeping a little bit closer. The Sweetener towards the inside, and still Inviction at the rear of the field. Heading towards the fence that'll be their last next time. Fascinating Rhythm, this heavily odds-on favourite, leads over it by the best part of, it must be neon 10 lengths now. Fascinating Rhythm 10 in front of Ridelonglivelong, Who's to Say shuffled back to third for the first time. Secret Pattern fourth, a couple of lengths to then find Somewhat View, the Sweetener, and Inviction still at the rear of the field. Fascinating Rhythm is out and over the 14th with still a sizable advantage on turning left-handed and beginning now to swing down the hill for this final time. The Sweetener just driven along on rounding that turn, heading left-handed, but no damage done. Fascinating Rhythm still 6 or 7 in front of Ridelonglivelong, then Who's to Say. Secret Pattern still races in fourth, and then the Grey Somewhat View. Inviction is towards the rear of the main body of the field, and the Sweetener is now at long last. Heading towards the first fence down the far side of this time, fence 15. Still Fascinating Rhythm leads the way from Ridelonglivelong, who's just chased along to get a little bit closer. Fascinating Rhythm and Will Easterby jumping well at the 60. They've got away from it by still 5 or 6, maybe even a little bit more now. Ridelonglivelong second, then Who's to Say, Ross Wilson in third, driven along Secret Pattern in fourth, as Fascinating Rhythm is over the fourth from home with still a 10 to 12 length advantage. Ridelonglivelong's been driven along to try and get closer. Who's to Say is in a remote third. Fascinating Rhythm at 3 from home, jumping slightly out to his right, but it's got away from the fence by the best part of 15 lengths, and that margin only seems to be growing as they're swinging now left-handed and heading towards now their final 3.5 furlongs. It's Will Easterby, took it up at a similar stage on Hollington earlier in the afternoon. He did the same a circuit or so ago on Fascinating Rhythm, and he's 20 lengths clear of Ridelonglivelong, who is a very remote second. Who's to Say looks to be going up and down on the one spot in third. Fascinating Rhythm over the second last with still 20-25 lengths between himself and Ridelonglivelong. Who's to Say looks like being pulled up before at the second last. These two that are in between the final two fences might be the only two to get round here. Fascinating Rhythm at the final fence jumps really well and gets away by a long margin. Ridelonglivelong's just coming to the last now. He's going to clamber his way across it, but this was very easy indeed for Fascinating Rhythm, who went on to win. Fascinating Rhythm beat Ridelonglivelong into second, and these are the only two to finish in the Noble Foods intermediate race.